Some individuals don't believe in karma until they meet you, at which point life begins to strike back. Have you ever observed how individuals who attempted to destroy you, lie to you, exploit you, or humiliate you suddenly start breaking apart after they messed with you? They go from smiling like the devil at church to calling it a spiritual assault. Oh, no, baby, that ain't no spiritual attack. That's divine cause and effect. That's you, your chosen one. You're not just a survivor of evil, you're the result of it. You're not the victim, you're the verdict. Here's a fact that will blow your mind. Studies in quantum physics show that consciousness affects reality simply by observing it. Imagine what happens when you're so highly tuned, spiritually protected, and karmically aligned. Enters the lives of people who've been doing dirty work in the dark. Their mask begins to melt like ice cream in hell. And it's not because you said anything or clapped back. It's because your mere presence activates the karmic recoil they've been avoiding for years. You're not walking through this life aimlessly. You're a moving mirror, a spiritual alarm. To be honest, for some individuals, you are the worst-case scenario with a smile. This isn't about ego or retaliation. It's about international justice. You finally got a face. And guess what? It looks like you. So buckle in, because we're going to go deep into why you. Yes, you are the retribution that the evil guys never saw coming. And in the end, you'll stop asking why they treat me this way and understand they've only hurt themselves by seeking to ruin me. Let's get into it. First and foremost, you are under no obligation to answer. Your presence is their exposure. You don't have to raise your voice, point a finger, or tell the truth. When someone wrongs you, an invisible force starts to move. And no, it's not only energy in a broad spiritual sense. It is precise, clever, and surgical. Your very presence starts to disturb the foundations of whatever fabricated world they created. That's because you weren't designed to fight back like them. You are predisposed to be the kind of person whose quiet suggests, "I don't need to destroy you." People believe that karma is some kind of delayed, spectacular retribution that occurs years later. But when it comes to the chosen ones, karma does not hide in the shadows. It travels beside you, exists in your environment, and records in real time. When someone attacks you, betrays you, mocks you, or attempts to shatter your spirit, it's as if they're being recorded on a spiritual surveillance camera, and the replay starts right away. They don't notice it at first. In fact, they laugh, gloat, and even pretended to win. However, as time passes, their energy shifts, and their plans begin to unravel as the same manipulative methods that previously worked backfire. People they used to dupe begin to see through them. They lose sleep, lose control, become paranoid, and instinctively sense something is wrong. They can't describe it, but you already do. You did not swear or wish them harm. You just stayed motionless, and that was sufficient because you have a spiritual frequency that does not allow evil to dwell too long around you. It suppresses evil. You don't seek revenge. Instead, you draw repercussions, and those who formerly misjudged you discover your spirit included a warning. Do not touch it puzzles them because you don't look like punishment and don't sound like retribution, but your life contains something old, something strong, something that turns the mirror on those who want to shatter you. And once it does, there's no turning back. They're no longer dealing with you. They're dealing with the force that keeps you safe, and that force always settles the score. Number 2, your frequency undoes their deceit. Your energy not only protects you, but it also reverses any deception directed at you. When someone attempts to influence you, your spirit does more than simply detect it. It rewinds the lie back to the sender, revealing what's actually going on without you having to say anything. You are made differently. The ordinary individual may fall for the charm, guilt trips, and phony smiles. But you don't just see the red lights, you feel them, and your whole being rejects them. It's like a spiritual firewall that prevents and reflects the onslaught before it ever hits. People who attempt to mislead you are unaware that they are activating more than just your intuition. Your soul is linked to truth, and truth has a way of revealing everything based on falsehoods. That is why, when someone attempts to play games with you, you may not respond immediately. Behind the scenes, however, things begin to unravel. Their schemes begin to fail, their words lose their strength, and their influence begins to wane because your energy does not allow falsehoods to thrive. It doesn't matter how well they practiced it or how convincing they seem. When they enter your space with manipulation, your soul starts to demolish their show. And what's amazing is that they never see it coming. They believe they're playing a game, but they're really falling into a trap they built for themselves. You didn't protest and didn't reveal them, yet they were still exposed. People begin to view things differently, and the truth eventually emerges. That's because your presence emits a frequency that disrupts dishonesty at its root. You were born with spiritual clarity, and anybody who attempts to confuse or mislead you just ends up confounding themselves. They mess up. They begin disclosing more than they intended to. They find themselves caught up in their own web. You don't need to catch liars. Your energy is the trap. When you do, the truth comes out, and whether they confess it or not, they are aware of it. That is why people feel uneasy around you when they have ill intentions, not because you revealed them, but because they know they can't keep up the charade. Your energy caused their mask to slip off, and they are now standing in front of you, not as they purported to be, but as they actually are. Number 3, their scheme served as a conduit to their own retribution. They believed they were setting you up, but the instant they acted against you, they opened the door to their own demise. That assault was more than simply an act of treachery. It was the catalyst that set off their karma. They did not comprehend you were spiritually wired. Every hurtful remark, shady maneuver, and covert scheme they hoped would remain concealed ended up working against them when it came to you. What they intended as your breaking point was the start of their own unraveling. People underestimate the consequences of meddling with the chosen one. You are not simply another name on their list. You're not simply someone to manipulate or lie to. Your life is under heavenly protection. And when someone targets you, they aren't just being mean. They're entering terrain they're not permitted to be in. You're hidden in ways they can't see, and by the time they discover it, the harm has already been done. They believe they were testing you, but they were really trying themselves spiritually, and they failed. What makes it worse for them is that you did not retaliate. You didn't have to seek retribution. Life handled it, and the moment they moved dirty against you, things began to slip for them. Their relationships deteriorated, their plans failed, and their peace vanished. Nothing hits like spiritual consequences, especially when it's tied to someone who was sent into their life to bless them, not harm them. Instead of honoring that, they chose to harm it, and that's when everything flipped. They were so intent on causing you pain that they didn't understand they were stepping into a spiritual trap, not one you created, but one that was always waiting for everyone who attempted to undermine you. Your suffering became their punishment. Your quiet became the most powerful testimony, and the same circumstance they said would destroy you became proof against them. When others tamper with you, they believe they are getting away with something, but what they have really done is unlocked the beginning of their own lesson. That assault did not change your fate, it just reaffirmed theirs. Worse, they'll spend years trying to find out why things started going wrong, never comprehending that it all started when they came for you. Number 4. You are mirroring what they refuse to mend. You don't even need to talk. People's uneasiness around you is entirely due to what you reflect rather than what you have done. You are the mirror they never asked for and did not want to see. But there you are, showing up in a calm manner. A clean heart and a presence that quietly casts light on everything they've buried. And that light is confrontational rather than kind. It reveals everything they've fought so hard to hide: grief, guilt, envy, manipulation, and insecurity. You are not doing anything to them. You are just existing, and that is enough. People despise you because they can't hide from you, not because you're harsh, arrogant, or frightening. Your presence removes their masks, showing how far they've deviated from who they seem to be among others. They may seem to be friendly, confident, or innocent, but when they are with you, something inside of them squirms. Their perfectly prepared illusions begin to malfunction because your soul is not deceived by the outside appearance. It searches for the truth, which may be frightening for some. You possess healing energy, but it is not pleasant for those who have spent their whole lives ignoring themselves. When people see you at peace despite your anguish, They are reminded that they have never dealt with their own. When people see you walking genuinely, they are reminded of the falsehoods they continue to believe. When they witness your purity, they are reminded of the devastation they've done. You do not need to pass judgment on them. Their conscience begins to resonate the instant they approach you. Some will lash out. Some people will gossip. Some may attempt to change the story and make you the issue. But deep inside, they know. They understand they can't wear their mask around you without it shattering. They know your soul will not accept pretense. Instead of confronting what they need to repair, they choose to dislike the person who made them experience it. You didn't come to punish people, but to wake them awake. But some people would prefer remain asleep and despise the alarm clock than face the morning. Number 5. You were sent as a last warning before they collapsed. You were not brought into their lives by chance. You were the last test, the last opportunity, the last glimmer of hope before the chaos. By the time you arrive, they've gone through years of warnings, lost connections, shattered relationships, missed opportunities, and internal agony. Life has constantly attempted to reroute them, but when you enter the picture, the world says, "This is it. This is your last chance to get it right." How do they react? They make it. They abuse it. They see your compassion as weakness. They see your allegiance as expendable. They reflect their dysfunction onto you, assuming you're simply another person to manipulate, drain, or dominate. What they don't comprehend is that they aren't just rejecting someone. They are rejecting divine grace. They are closing the door on the same lifeline they were pleading for. Whether they recognized it or not, your presence was intended to uplift, heal, and lead them out of the disaster they were making. Instead of respecting it, they continued to live in the same pattern they had always followed, believing that there would be another chance. They didn't realize you were the final one following you. The storm starts, and it does not arrive all at once. It arrives in tiny, continuous waves. Peace vanishes. Relationships collapse. Opportunity evaporates. Health deteriorates. Isolation settles in. Not because you cursed them, but because grace left as you did. You were not there to injure them. You were the one who could have helped them. But when they chose hurt over healing, ego over humility, when they decided to toy with your soul as if it was normal, that's when the doors that would have opened if they had honored you now remain closed. The favor they may have walked into has been rescinded. Their previous security vanishes, and they are unexpectedly confronted with all they fled from. Only this time, there is no buffer, weight, or warning remaining. You were the warning. The universe brings chosen ones to people not because they deserve you, but because they badly need what you have. But if they reject that gift, they not only lose you, but they also trigger their own collapse. Number 6. They believed you were the target, but you were the trap. They saw your generosity and labeled it tenderness. They observed your patience and thought you were naive. They noticed your peaceful disposition and assumed you were simple to influence. What they didn't comprehend was that you weren't simply another target. They were being set up by something much greater than each of you. You were not brought into their lives to shatter them. Rather, you were meant to disclose them, and when they accepted the bait, they revealed themselves. You came in love, in peace, and you offered them the chance to meet someone genuine, pure-hearted, and who wanted nothing more than honesty and mutual respect. But they saw you as prey. They thought, "Here's someone I can use. This is someone I can handle." That was the error because, as they closed in for the kill, they triggered the precise thing that would bring them down. They didn't see the trap since it did not appear like one. It seemed like a lovely spirit. It seemed like someone let things slip and forgave too quickly, but this was all part of the plan. It was divine strategy, not because you were faking, but because your essence is protected and supported by something everlasting. They weren't simply coming for you. They were acting in accordance with the consequences that had already been written for them. You were just the last trigger and the most damaging aspect for them. Initially, it seemed like they were winning. They misunderstood your quiet as fear. They assumed they had time. However, when they exceeded that spiritual border by seeking to injure someone who had been sent to bless or love them, the whole story changed. Everything they had built on your misery started to rot from the inside out, and what looked to be a little betrayal became the catalyst for their own downfall. They believed you were the one being tested, But in truth, they were walking into judgment disguised as opportunity, and by the time they knew it, they had already been caught, not by you, but by the same universal power they attempted to outwit. Number 7. Every falsehood said about you is a spiritual contract that collects debt. When someone spreads a lie about you, particularly with the goal of destroying your reputation or changing how others see you, it is more than simply gossip. It's a spiritual transaction. At that time, their lips writes a check that their spirit cannot pay. The untruth does not just float in the air and evaporate. It is recorded by your soul, the energy around you, and invisible forces. They believe they are just conversing, but in the spirit world, they are signing a contract with implications etched in invisible ink. What makes this more serious is that falsehoods have weight, and that weight does not go away. It piles up, and each time someone repeats it, the lie reinforces it or accepts it without question. They bind themselves to the same spiritual obligation that they owe the truth, and whether it takes weeks, months, or years, that debt will be paid. For although falsehoods move fast, truth moves with purpose. It doesn't have to hurry. It merely waits for the appropriate time to speak, and then it shouts so loudly that anything untrue rots on touch. You don't have to follow individuals down to establish your identity. You do not need to dispute every rumor or defend yourself in every area. The falsehood may spread quicker than the truth, but it also deteriorates faster. It is revealed in subtle ways. At first, they notice a flaw in their tale, a difference in how others react to them, and an uneasy feeling. Then it becomes louder. Relationships break apart, their credibility shatters, and the same people they lied to start doubting everything. This is because your spirit has a different type of power. When someone lies to you, your silence is not weakness, it is the courtroom. The more you keep quiet, the more the truth emerges behind the scenes, until what was concealed becomes evident. Those who formerly pointed fingers must now bear the consequences of their actions. Liz may win the present, but reality dominates the chronology. Those who cheat on chosen ones not only harm your reputation, but they also bind themselves to a timeline of karma from which they cannot escape. The deception costs them more than the truth ever has. Number 8. You bring their prior transgressions full circle. You don't even have to know someone's history for it to begin catching up with them as soon as they enter your space. That is how deeply your spirit operates. You carry a frequency that does not just enter the room, it disturbs it. People who have spent years concealing what they have done, escaping from the truth, claiming to be someone they are not. Those same individuals gather around you and are suddenly unable to breathe, not because you said or did anything, but because your presence awakens the same things they have been avoiding. You don't bring turmoil, you bring truth. But for those who've been living in falsehoods for so long, truth seems like chaos, which is why they behave funny around you. Why do they separate themselves, get defensive, and even attempt to transfer the responsibility to you? Because being around you brings out memories, regrets, remorse, and humiliation that they believed were buried. It's as if their history is banging at the door the minute you step in. That is not a coincidence. Karma has found a vessel, and you are the trigger. You did not come to punish them. You didn't come to torment them, but your energy won't let what's phony settle well. And if they haven't reconciled with their history, it shows. Old falsehoods start to surface. Old habits sneak back in. They begin reliving patterns they believed they had overcome. Not because of you, but because you turned on their mirror. Your spirit carries responsibility. You did not ask for that position, but it comes with being selected. They begin to recall the people they exploited, the ones they deceived, the harm they inflicted, and instead of learning from it, they projected. They attempt to blame you for their unhappiness, but they know the reality. They are hurting in your presence because you bring the same light that they attempted to flee. You are not their adversary. They didn't anticipate to be enveloped in human form. People will either humble or harden around you, but they will not remain neutral because your presence rattles what they have buried. You're not here to destroy them. You're here to show them what remains unhealed. The decision to heal or spiral is totally up to them. Number 9, you have a heavenly surveillance aura. When people come up against you, they believe they are being slick. They believe that if no one witnessed it, it didn't happen. They could get away with stabbing your back in quiet while smiling at you. What they don't realize is that you are under divine watch. You are spiritually monitored, not in a paranoid sense, but in a safe, selected way. Your life is not simply being lived, it is being observed. Every action taken against you is recorded in real time, whether it occurs in public or behind closed doors. There is something about you that attracts the spiritual realm's attention, not because you are faultless, but because your purpose is safeguarded. When someone attempts to tamper with it, whether by lies, treachery, manipulation, or spiritual assaults, it is more than simply a personal violation. It is a violation of something precious, and heaven does not tolerate breaches. When someone plots against you, it's like hurling a rocket-stained glass into a quiet church. It may not break quickly, but the sound is audible, and someone seeks out the cause. You've undoubtedly observed how those that mistreat you wind up losing more than they bargained for. Opportune ditties dry up, their peace slips, and things begin to crumble, which perplexes them since they did not foresee a result related to a person who did not even fight back. They don't comprehend that you never had to fight back. You are linked to something that can see everything. You are not just safe. You are being chronicled by forces they cannot manage or persuade. You carry a subtle weight that makes others uncomfortable for reasons they don't always understand, but they feel it on a soul level. They know they're being watched when they deal with you dishonestly, which is why so many people feel bad about crossing you. They believed it was simply another maneuver, a falsehood, a betrayal, but the aftermath reveals something much larger. The judgment may not always fall instantly, but it does so perfectly. You are not someone who can be messed with and go away clean. Not because you want revenge, but because heaven keeps receipts. Those who attempted to hurt you always get a collection notice, signed, sealed, and stamped with divine timing. Number 10. You demonstrate that spiritual courts exist without judges. Most individuals live as if there is no higher order, and the only penalties are those imposed by a court or revealed by a scandal. So when they wrong you, they laugh, go on, pretend to apologize or twist the narrative, and assume that if no one holds them responsible in public, they've escaped. What they don't realize is that you carry something old and holy, an unseen judicial system based on spirit rather than law. You don't need a judge or jury. You were born into a covenant in which treachery bears its own punishment. That's why things start coming apart for individuals after they hurt you, even if you never say anything. It doesn't include curses or rituals. It's about balance. It's an alignment. The peaceful code of the universe is prevailing. When someone betrays you, manipulates you, or attempts to weaponize your kindness, they are unaware that the spiritual paperwork is already in action. You don't have to pursue vengeance since your spirit is linked to a law that cannot be bought. Their titles are irrelevant, as are their followers, and their lives are ineffective in this court. Everything that counts is what their spirit did when it believed no one was looking. You were born under a spiritual contract that includes protection. Most people would never understand, which is why those who cross you face unconnected consequences. Random sicknesses, lost deals, unexplainable turmoil, and relationships turning on them. They believe it is terrible luck, but it is truly divine order. When someone wrongs a chosen one, it is not just personal, but prophetic. They messed with a soul that was sent, not discovered. And when they violate divine placement, spiritual law takes action without your consent. You don't need to prove your point. Your enthusiasm is sufficient proof. And while they're out attempting to develop storylines, establish alliances, or preserve their image, you may rest knowing the decision has already been decided, not by man, gossip, or retribution, but by the spiritual court that saw it all unfold in quiet. You are a living reminder that certain laws and courts do not need police or judges. Because when your heart is clean and your path is safe, justice is not delayed. It is only disguised as time. Number 1. They believed they had killed you, but you were really the seed they accidentally watered. They felt they had the final say when they humiliated you, lied to you, abandoned you, or attempted to break you in private. They believed they were concluding your chapter. They considered you as throwaway stuff, something they could discard and never worry about again. They had no idea that every insult, treachery, calculation, and effort to squash your spirit was watering your destiny. They were so concentrated on your agony that they failed to see your roots sprouting. They ridiculed you while you were silent, assuming stillness signified defeat. They cheered while you were recovering, misinterpreting your absence as weakness and your stillness as immobility. However, you were not really dead. Rather, you were planted. What happens to a seed after it is buried? It does not stay buried. Rather, it develops, breaks open, and penetrates deeper into the soil to gain power before reaching the surface with something altogether new. That's you. You didn't just survive. You outgrew the darkness they attempted to suffocate you in. What makes your ascension so great is because it began from inside. Nobody gave it to you. Nobody saved you. You didn't have to beg, scheme, or act to get it. You were shattered, ignored, and undervalued, yet you persevered. And not just any rising, but the type that makes people mute. The type of shift that causes people to look at their own mirror and realize they made a mistake. You became live evidence that spiritual soil exists and that people with divine roots cannot be destroyed. They weren't your enemies. They were your unsuspecting gardeners. Each time they kicked you while you were down, they increased the pressure, which strengthened your resistance. Every time they laughed at your suffering, they instilled in you an unmistakable appetite. They believed they'd buried a problem, but instead they planted a force, and now, as you grow fearlessly in places they never imagined you'd go, they're forced to witness their worst insult transform into your greatest triumph. You don't even need to brag. Your growth is the clapback. Your peace is evidence, and the same individuals who attempted to dig your grave are now walking by your garden, astonished, understanding they planted the incorrect one. Your presence serves as a prophetic test, revealing who is who. When you come into someone's life, it's more than simply a meeting. It's a heavenly encounter that happens without you attempting, saying anything, or even knowing the whole tale. You begin to uncover things in individuals that they believe they had concealed. This is not because you dig or probe, but because your soul is tuned to a frequency that reveals everything that isn't in alignment. The mask slips around you, the act disappears, and individuals reveal either their healed or hidden selves. There is no in-between with you. They're not sure why they feel nervous with you, but deep down they do. It's because your existence necessitates truthfulness. You do not beg for it. You are it. That type of honesty is frightening for those who have based their identities on deception or unresolved anguish. You're not bringing out the worst in people. You're unveiling what was always there, just under the surface. Being with you is like being under a spiritual spotlight. They start to squirm because their soul realizes it is being observed, not by you, but by something greater that resides inside you. That's why your relationships seem like tests. That is why others change around you. You were never intended to blend in. You were supposed to be the dividing line. People either rise to meet your energy or demonstrate their unwillingness to progress. And that realization is not your fault. It is your role. You come to aid, love, and encourage, yet your light is a reality check. Those who failed the exam will often seek to blame you for their exposure. They'll argue you were too much, too passionate, or too sensitive, but in reality, they were just unprepared to confront their own mirror. You are a spiritual checkpoint. Not everyone can pass it. Not everyone is expected to. Some were intended to be disclosed, not redeemed. The test starts the minute they meet you. Not because you are condemning others, but because your life has a vibration that distinguishes wheat from weeds. So, when individuals show you who they really are, trust them. You did not make them that way. You just arrived with the light that made it difficult for them to conceal number. Your radiance is more than simply beauty. It is spiritual radiation. People believe it's all about appearance. They believe their attraction to, irritation at, or obsession with observing you stems from something bodily. It is spiritual radiation. People are shaken not by what is on them, but by what is inside them. When you step into a room, things start to alter. Smiles tighten, secrets spill, and energy becomes strange. It's not because you accomplished anything. but because your presence serves as a heavenly cleansing. It exposes what individuals have spent years attempting to keep hidden. You do not even need to talk. Your radiance activates people's nerve systems. Some grow fixated on it, mistaking spiritual purity for attractiveness. Others become hostile or defensive, as if just being there makes you a bad person. But what's actually going on is that your energy starts to take away the phony. People start to crumble under the weight of their own masks. Their emotional turmoil rises to the surface. Their suppressed grief resurfaces, and their hidden jealousy starts to suffocate them. For your spirit will not let anybody hide comfortably. You shine because you worked hard, grieved in the darkness, and healed what? You were sharpened in isolation, not polished in front of an audience, and they attempted to kill you. That sort of brightness cannot be faked, and it is not allowed by everyone. That's why some folks unexpectedly slip off as you climb. That is why people strive to compete with you or imitate you while remaining empty, since your radiance isn't for display. It is sacrosanct. It's the outcome of enduring agony and refusing to lose heart. Some people find your presence magnetic, while others find it overwhelming. But it is never neutral. That's why people either adore you or despise you. There's no between ground. Your energy requires alignment, and that frequency reveals what individuals have not healed. You don't simply stroll in. You confront without a word or warning. You are the test, the medication, and the mirror in one. Please don't take it personally. They're not reacting to your appearance or clothing. They're responding to your reality. Your brightness is heavenly radiation, and not everyone is equipped to withstand the heat. The anguish they gave you became their own prophecy. They believed they were winning when they used your goodwill, distorted your reality, and took advantage of your open heart. They honestly felt they had control over you. You were a soft target, easy to ridicule, gaslight, and walk over without repercussions. They believed they were in charge and could create your narrative via humiliation, desertion, and betrayal. However, they failed to see that when grief strikes a chosen one, it changes rather than destroys us. Every emotional punch they delivered was like metal meeting fire. You didn't crumble, you forged, you evolved, you began to see through illusions, you stopped begging for closure and began to build your own peace. And while they expected you to remain broken, replaying the past and chasing validation, you rose, grew, and healed in ways they didn't expect, quietly, steadily, and with a power that made your existence mirror their failure. Now your peace is the loudest thing in the room, not because you brag about it, but because it reminds them of the conflict they attempted to instill in you and how you lost your development as a direct result of the falsehoods they said. Every stride forward, every genuine smile, and every barrier you set haunts them because they know you gave your best. They had to break you down, yet nevertheless you became stronger. What they did to you did not simply backfire. It foreshadowed their own downfall. They built a version of you that now reveals every flaw in them. You become the same energy they attempted to destroy. Your confidence makes them uncomfortable, your delight perplexes them, and your lack of desire for vengeance deflates their ego. You become the weapon they didn't expect, motivated by transcendence rather than revenge. They lived off your sorrow, unaware that it was fueling your strength, and now your mere existence is the penalty they must bear. Nothing punishes a person more than seeing the person they attempted to destroy become the version of themselves they can never achieve. That is the prophecy they penned with their own hands, and you are only carrying it out in peace. The reality about being a chosen one is that you were never brought here only to fit in or make others happy. You were created to interrupt this world's spiritual sleepwalking. You bear a light that does not just glow. It exposes your presence. It does more than just uplift. It reveals. And that alone qualifies you as a spiritual event. Every time you walk into a room, whether you realize it or not, your energy forces people to confront themselves, what they've avoided, what they've denied, and who they've become. When no one was looking, you never had to seek vengeance or prove your worth. The universe created you in such a manner that your life, evolution, tranquility, and perseverance became the karma. The very individuals who misunderstood you now confront the reality. They attempted to silence you. They laughed while you were down. They underestimated your quiet. They derided things they didn't comprehend. However, time has a strange way of putting things in order. Now, your healing haunts their memories. Your light scorches their shade, and your development rewrites the exact story they attempted to cage you in. Being a walking karma does not imply that you wish someone ill. Rather, it means that your very life becomes the outcome. Your survival becomes a sermon, and your blessings speak louder than their treachery ever could. You were the exam they weren't aware they were taking. You were the unbreakable mirror. They believed they had conjured a storm, but you were the calm that shattered the pandemonium. You did more than simply bounce back. You changed, shifting the whole energy playing field. You no longer absorb their projections, you mirror their reality. You no longer bend to please, but stand to align. You no longer need to explain your spirit. Instead, your outcomes speak for themselves. You have become what they dreaded the most: unbreakable, untouchable, and unmistakable. So continue to shine, heal, and stand in your divine identity without apology, because your tale is more than simply survival. It's justice, prophecy, and holy design. And those who sought to dull your light now have to live in the shadow of who you've become. A living, breathing, brilliant reminder that the Most High never loses sight of His own. If this message resonated to your soul, if every word seemed like it was written especially for you, then this is your tribe. Do not simply scroll away. Stay connected by clicking the subscribe button and become a part of a movement that tells the truth. The world attempts to silence you. Tap the like button. If you're living evidence that no weapon ever flourished, leave a comment below and share your story. Your voice might be the light someone else needs to hear. And if you know a fellow warrior, survivor, or silent healer who has gone through the fire and emerged radiant, please share this video with them. Tell them they are not insane. They have been selected. This is not just material, it is confirmation. This is more than simply a film. It is a spiritual checkpoint. The world attempted to bury us, but we were seeds. We are now becoming louder, stronger, and more unified. See you at the next one. Stay courageous, fortunate, and indisputably chosen.